Howdy folks, this is Checkers, and I wanted to talk a bit today about the great video game crash of 2018. It's something that I dearly hope won't happen. I really, truly, dearly hope it won't happen. But I have to wonder, because things are happening in the game industry right now that are distressing in the very least and terrifying at the very worst. Back in the 80s in the US, the video game market crashed because at the time the rather clever suits that ran that game industry came to the conclusion, not understanding the industry, that if they made pretty colors on the screen and a child moved a controller and the pretty colors moved, they could sell that as a game. They basically were entirely convinced that the entire market for gaming was just idiot children. Not even smart children, complete idiot children. Apparently they'd never been even exposed to children in their lives. They thought that somehow these were, somewhere south of the intelligence level of your average puppy, and that if you put something brightly colored on the screen in front of them, they would just buy that right on up, man. And, well, that's not how it worked, and it's not how it went down. The famous example of the period is E.T., that, it wasn't a very good game, and Atari put it in a landfill, which was actually proven. Someone made a documentary digging them up. But the key aspect, what made the crash happen, at least for the console sector of gaming back at that time, PC games were never affected, whether that was a DOS PC or Commodore 64 or otherwise. But the impetus, the reason for the crash was this mass of people controlling an industry who have no understanding of the market, no understanding of their customer base, no understanding of their own product, and thus tried to basically spit out. I did say spit. It's maybe not the word I should use, but they tried to spit out lackluster, to be kind, and pathetically meaningless games and just pull in that money, because obviously consumers are only there to give money to the company no matter what they do. It doesn't matter if the company makes a good product or a bad product. If the company makes the product, by God, consumers had better well buy that thing. Anyway, what distresses me now, what makes me concerned about the great video game crash of 2018 is that, well, EA, Activision, Ubisoft, Bethesda, which technically ZeniMax, they're all essentially trying to do the same thing. Once again, assuming that via microtransactions, meaningless bits of colors and pixels on a screen, you will throw money at them because, by God, they deserve it. You don't. You didn't work for it. You didn't earn it. You don't need it. They do. So, yeah, so what if we make a game that's entirely structured around those microtransactions? We do it because we deserve it. We do it because you are the cattle, you are the herd, and we can take what we want from you. It is the exact same belief system, the exact same attitude that caused the market to crash, at least again for consoles in the US back in the 80s. There were some serious falls because of that. And, you know, those companies at that time thought they were as invulnerable as EA and Activision and Ubisoft and Bethesda must think themselves now. But the fact of the matter is, there are some really great companies out there making some really great products. And although they're getting to be fewer and farther between, not all of them are trying to convince us that meaningless bits of fluff for characters or, you know, general progression should be tied to how much money you throw at the game. Games as a service. You know, the entire idea, the idea of constantly having a revenue stream out of a game isn't all that absolutely insane. It's just that they don't seem to want to put the work behind it. I mean, imagine if, say, Bethesda had just continued to make ever-expanding, ever-better DLC for Fallout 4, or, say, for Skyrim, instead of just trying to reprint Skyrim for a different console or a different means of viewing the experience. Imagine if instead of meaningless bits of fluff, EA offered to put in new campaigns for new characters in Star Wars Battlefront 2. That, to me, would be worth paying for. You put the work in, I'd be interested in purchasing that. You try and convince me that meaningless bits of fluff are good because, by God, it's your divine right. Well, no. No, it's really not. The entire industry, of course, is not falling victim to this. It just seems to be the AAA sector, the big companies that have boards and, I assume, shareholders to report to. Will the industry survive? If EA crashed, yeah. If Activision crashed, yeah. The sad part is, a lot of good people and a lot of good developers would probably be out of work. Maybe they'd form their own studios. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, this mindset of the consumer as cattle, the gamer as an absolute imbecile, incapable of distinguishing value from fluff, well, they seem to think that it's the truth. In the case of EA and Star Wars Battlefront 2, Reddit seems at least to have disagreed with them, earning EA the most downvoted comment in the history of Reddit, which should sit nicely next to their Worst Company Ever awards, which they've managed to take home several years. It's tiring. You know, people always tell you history repeats itself, and you want to believe that it doesn't. You really want to believe that it doesn't. But it does. It does, and it is. Because, again, instead of thinking in any sort of long-term fashion, we have companies thinking of, let's, you know, raise our profit right now and basically screw the future. Well, the future keeps coming closer every single day. And eventually, it will catch up with EA and Activision and Ubisoft and ZeniMax. I would prefer that they come to their senses beforehand. Everybody understands that a company needs to make money. Everybody understands that the industry is there for profit, even though there are companies who make games for the sheer love of it, and some of them are the best games ever. But if you want consumers to give you their money, you need to offer something of value in return. Wishful thinking and believing that your consumer is just so incredibly stupid that they will just go right ahead and buy whatever pretty colored bits of string you put in front of them, that is not a business model. That is a plan for failure. Alrighty, folks, I just wanted to share this rant/ramble/wandering through the Commonwealth as we talked a bit about what will hopefully never be the great video game crash of 2018. But your voice matters. Your choices matter as well. Don't succumb to this. Don't prove them right. Don't buy in to the pretty colored bits of string that have no meaning. In this case, it may not be string as you would find to play with your cat. It may be string of code, but it's still the same thing. You know, what my character is wearing right now is really kind of irrelevant. I mean, we'd like it to be nice armor and protective, but I don't really care if it's the most beautiful thing ever. Anyway. Huh. Alrighty, folks. This has been Checkers with some thoughts on the current state of microtransactions and the industry. I would like to thank you for watching. I hope you found the video entertaining and maybe just a little bit thought-provoking. I would like to invite you to subscribe, like, and share if you so desire, and to ask you, above all, to please take care.